Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. It is Tuesday, December 6th, Ian Cameron, and we've got the Ice Guys family in the house, 3 members of it anyway. It's a big family. You know, not enough can fit in one house, if you ask me, but we've got 3 people that have been obviously watching and listening to this show for a very long time. They've been contributors on and off as guests in the past on this show, betcasts, the actual daily show, you name it. We've seen these 3 faces on this show many a time, and happy to have Terry Edelmann, Nick Earle, Jaric Rubel joining me, helping me out here with Alex B. Smith away for this Tuesday NHL card. Before we get into today's card, let's go around the horn, starting with our resident Minnesota Wild fanatic, Terry Edelmann. How are you?
Can't complain. 3-1 night in NHL on my premium picks yesterday. The one game that didn't get there was the over in the Edmonton-Washington. Edmonton had chances, and I thought, they're going to tie it, but they weren't able to do it. But the Rangers, St. Louis, why that moved to 5.5 is beyond me. That was like an easy over, even though the first 15 minutes was 0-0, and I was kind of thinking, and then boom, the floodgates open. So that was a great win, and yesterday was a pretty good night. Can't complain.
Yeah, I mean, didn't I just fucking say it on the show yesterday about when I lose an over, there's because there's a million chances, there's great goaltending, there's lots of shots, there's lots of opportunities, and those are the overs I lose. It's never the overs where there's no scoring chances generated. It's always there's a ton generated, and it's just nothing's going in the net. And that's how that Washington-Edmonton game stayed under the total. Great performance by Skinner. It was very good in net for the Edmonton Oilers. No question about that. 50 shots faced, and Washington got the job done. Just enough goals past a pretty strong Stuart Skinner last night to get the victory. And look, even Lindgren made a couple of nice saves to preserve the 3-2 lead late in that game. But it's the way it goes sometimes. Nick, welcome back to the Ice Guys. What's up with you?
Not too much. It's been a good hockey year so far. November was probably my best hockey month I've had in my career, so definitely looking really good. I'm able to have enough data now really to be able to use goalie numbers and projections for my games. So I have projected scores for all my games, and that's kind of how I've been betting, and that's kind of where my numbers have been taking me, and it's been a good ride so far. So hoping to continue into today. I was actually on the opposite side of that Washington game last night. Yeah,
exactly. And the thing about Nick is he's a heavy underdog player. So if you like barking dogs and live dogs, you're going to probably like some of his card here on the Tuesday slate. And we've got Jaric Rubel, aspiring NHL broadcaster, the next Doc Emmerich, the next Wob Wischusen, the next Kenny Albert. You name any national broadcaster that's doing hockey, either past or present. Jaric is trying to follow in those footsteps. Jaric, how are you? It's good to have you back. It's been a while.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. Thanks for allowing me on here. It's my Ice Guys debut per se for like the actual show outside of the betcast. And, betting wise, I kind of took a bit of November slow. I didn't post too much, but over the weekend, I went 11-4-1. It was surprisingly really well. But then yesterday, I kind of fell flat on my face, 0-1-1. I had the Capitals first period because Edmonton really slow out the gates at home this year. And that ended up tying. So I got my money back. I had the tie no bet. And then I had Arizona first period over a half goal. Flames have been allowing first period goals at a crazy rate this year, but they couldn't get it done, the Coyotes, yesterday. So kind of fell back down to earth after a red hot weekend.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've just I had to update my record this morning. I had fallen behind doing that. What is it, December 6th? What are we, 2 months into the NHL season? And in terms of pregame bets, not even including live bets that I've placed, I've made 490 NHL wagers this year in the first 2 months. So there you go, high volume Ian. So 255, 235, 52% plus 6.4 units. And again, the majority of my bets, for those that are not the subscribers of mine that wouldn't know, but that are 0.25 units and 0.5 units each. And it's just, that's the way it goes for me. It's just, I equate it to my own amount. So that's why I go quarter and half units with it. So it's a solid start. We've been bouncing between the +4 and +8 unit range like the last 2 weeks. It's basically back and forth, up and down. So we've been like a sliding scale. And you're going to have weeks like that. It's very important to point that out in the course of a long season. You're going to have treading water. You're up, you're down, you're up, you're down, just between this same range of profit and loss, essentially, like +8 units, +4 units. I've been bouncing back between those two figures, it seems, for the last 2 weeks. But that's what happens. Sometimes you're just going to go back and forth, win some, lose some kind of deal when you're talking about a sport, especially that's in action every day, like the NHL. And we've got a big Tuesday slate to break down, so we'll jump into that right now. 9 games tonight in the NHL, and we will begin with the Los Angeles Kings taking on the Ottawa Senators. We've got -110, pretty much even money here on both sides, 6.5 being the total in this game. I want to take LA. I think they're the better of these two teams. Yeah, and I think certainly I trust them a little bit more than Ottawa right now. But at the same point in time, what are we going to get out of Phoenix Copley? Copley Men's Apparel is the old store that I keep hearing around here. Copley in net for the LA Kings tonight. Obviously, we know earlier last weekend they waived Cal Peterson, put him on waivers. So it's pretty much John Quick now and Phoenix Copley as their goaltenders. They also had Jacob Ingham on the roster, but back surgery for him. So up steps Phoenix Copley, who, as we know, has been with a bunch of NHL teams in his career. In the past, he's been with St. Louis organization for a bit, Washington as well for a couple of seasons. Now here he is with the LA Kings and getting a starting opportunity. His overall career numbers in the NHL, 2.98 goals against average, 900 save percentage, pretty much average. It's not horrible. It's not great. His numbers so far, it is what it is. What concerns me is Phoenix Copley's not a goalie that I think can withstand a team that has got crisis issues defensively. And the LA Kings have crisis issues defensively. And we've talked about this repeatedly on the show. They've got a weird setup with their blue line where it feels like they've got blue liners playing a little bit out of position, not quite to where they're used to. They are obviously having trouble in the defensive zone, and it's been a repeated problem for the LA Kings for the last several games, and which is shocking because really ever since they had that masterpiece, that defensive gem just a few weeks ago on national television on TNT against Edmonton, where they completely shut down McDavid and Draisaitl, they really haven't played a very sturdy defensive game since then. So it's been absolutely stunning to see just the problems that they have had and the struggles. Since that Edmonton game, they gave up 4 in a loss to Vancouver. They gave up 3 to Seattle, 5 to the Rangers. They did beat San Jose 5-2, probably the best they've done during this span, but they lose to Ottawa 3-2 in overtime at home. That crazy 9-8 game when we were doing the betcast, one of the games you'll never forget in the NHL. 5-3 win over Arizona, and then they give up 4 goals and a loss to Carolina to end that homestand. So it's a team that's had a hard time to back them in terms of trusting them defensively. Ottawa on the flip side, look, they have started to get out of their struggles. We've talked about it. They had gone through a brutal losing streak. They beat Anaheim. They beat LA previously, so it is a little revenge spot for the Kings. They split with the Rangers, and then they beat San Jose on Saturday night by a score of 5-2. So Senators are definitely playing a little bit better hockey right now. As of at this moment, Cam Talbot confirmed in net for them. I'm torn on the side. I lean LA. They're in revenge. I still think that roster-wise, they're a little bit better than Ottawa. Not right now in terms of form, but I still think long-term they're the better team in my opinion and will prove to be in the long term. But right now, form-wise, Ottawa is the better form. So I have a lean to LA. I don't know if I'll pull the trigger. I am going to pull the trigger on over the total, though, in this game. Talked about how the LA Kings for a very long time have been trending over because of these defensive issues, and it's playing out that way. They've trended 5-1 to the over in their last 6 games. And finally, the under streak got snapped for the Ottawa Senators. What was it, 10 in a row to the under for them? Finally went over the total. Their game Saturday night against San Jose. They found the back of the net. The offense came to life. I think we'll see some goals here in this one. Again, LA has turned into this over team where they're very capable still offensively with the likes of Kopitar, Velarde, and company up front, Fiala, and many others who have had a good start to the year. But at the same time, they are struggling to keep the puck out of their own net. So the over is the preferred route for me in this game. Terry, we'll start with you. Los Angeles, Ottawa.
Well, not to disagree right off the bat, but if I was going to make a game play on the side or total, which I'm not, these two teams have a huge under history. 10 of the last 11 meetings went under 6.5. The last 5 meetings in Ottawa went under 6.5. But as Ian said on the betcast, we watched the LA Kings in that game, and I don't have it in me to bet an under on the LA Kings. And then Ottawa Senators, a team that I've been looking preseason wise, and especially early on with overs. So not a team I really want to take an under with either. But one thing I am going to be sprinkling on here is former Wild player Kevin Fiala, anytime goal against Cam Talbot. I think that's my best play in this game. I think Fiala scores one here on Talbot, but other than that, I could see this going either way, over under, or either team winning. Yeah. But I'll stick with Fiala to score.
Yeah, I'm really I want to take LA, but I don't love at all what I'm seeing from them in their own zone. It's a clusterfuck right now. It's a mess, and they're gonna have to show me they can sort that out. Nick, how about you? LA, Ottawa.
Yeah, I do have a play on the side in this game. And when we're looking at it, one thing that I've noticed is we should be seeing more overs out of this Ottawa team, because when we look at their projected numbers, their goal projections have been up in the 7s and some 8s, 10 against San Jose. Like, the projected goals for this team suggest this team should be flying over the total, feels like, every single night. Cam Talbot's been awesome since coming off the IL. He has given up 26 goals, but 30.78 expected goals against. So he's been an above average goaltender so far since returning. Yeah, he's 4-6, but a .920 save percentage and a 2.50 goals allowed average. He's been good. And one thing I don't trust is this LA Kings team defensively. So I do have a play on Ottawa. I got in on them yesterday at -102. I would take them all the way up to around -120, -125 range. I also took what I believe is probably the better play rather than taking the full game over. Because I think Talbot could have a good game in this one. I took Ottawa's team total over 3.5 at +115. I don't trust Phoenix Copley. We only saw him 2 games last year. He gave up 5 goals in 2 games, so he wasn't bad. But it's just one of those spots where when we look at Ottawa offensively, they've put up at least 3.47 expected goals in 7 straight games and 9 of their last 10. So this is a team that is creating opportunities, creating chances, and I believe that they're going to find the back of the net. So Senators team total over 3.5, and I also got the money line as well. So a little bit on each.
There you go. That's what I do sometimes. I usually do it with only big dogs, but you can do it with obviously even money favorites as well, or favorites as well. You could go with money line team total over split. I do that quite a bit. And Nick going in that route with the Senators money line and over 3.5 team total. Jaric, how about you? What do you like, Kings Senators?
So I'm kind of agreeing with Nick on the money line there at the Senators. They were able to win in overtime about a week and a half ago against LA out west. But I'm actually going to stick in a kind of first period. Doesn't have to necessarily be a first period bet. Ottawa here's like eerily similar to Edmonton at home. They stink in the first period. Their last 5, they're 1-4 at home. Last 10, they're 2-7-1 on home ice, of course. And following a win so far this year, they're on an 0-7 run in the first period, coming off of a victory. So I kind of like the Kings to get an early jump here on Ottawa early on. I mean, it's not saying LA is going to end up winning the full game. 10 of the last 11 games for Ottawa have gone under, of course, and the trend Terry was talking about with the series between the two. I'm not going to touch the total. I probably would lean under just because I do like looking towards that stuff historically. But I'm going to stick with the Kings to score the first goal in this one. And on the prop side, Sean Durzi, if you could find a book that offers him to get a point, I mean, he's got 6 assists in his last 5 games. And Claude Giroux for Ottawa, he's plus 265 to score a goal. He had a 2-goal game last game, scored versus LA in that meeting out west. And he's faced Phoenix Copley and was able to score against him. So I think if you're trying to narrow down your options, I like Giroux for Ottawa to find the back of the net.
And our guy Shane Pinto, who I was taking quite a bit early in the season, he's cooled off significantly as of late. Only 1 goal for him in the last 12 games. So definitely it's been a little bit harder to come by the goals for him. Yeah, Stützle and Giroux, as you mentioned, Jaric, definitely the guys that have been stepping up lately for Ottawa. We do have a good Ian Cameron typical betting angle situation, it looks like, tonight with the goal props on the LA side. It looks like Kaliev is moving up to the top line for the Los Angeles Kings tonight, playing alongside Fiala and Kopitar, at least based on the latest line combinations. And look, he's earned it because, it seems like even with minimal ice time, he's been the bottom 6 forwards all season long for LA. He's managed to chip in for this team offensively, 9 goals and 8 assists. Now you're going to give him that opportunity with Fiala and Kopitar on the top line. So there's absolutely good value there. Goal scorer prop, point prop, anything you can find on Arthur Kaliev tonight for the LA Kings. All right, next up, we've got Detroit and Tampa Bay. The Lightning minus 250, home favorites, 6 being the total in this one. Obviously, I got to give the Lightning credit. They are, whether it was an early season malaise, whatever you want to call it, definitely not playing their best hockey early on, but they've played a lot better. Obviously, in the last 10 games or so, 8-2, and the only 2 losses were both to the Boston Bruins, the team that only lost their first home game of the season last night against the Vegas Golden Knights. So Tampa Bay has played really well. I think what's been great to see for Tampa Bay is that obviously it's been a great run for Stamkos, for Braden Point, and Kucherov after a slow start. He's really got it going at the moment. You're seeing Nick Paul and the Mesnikov start to chip in terms of giving them some depth scoring. They just got Anthony Cirelli, one of the better two-way centers in the National Hockey League, back from injury against Toronto on Saturday night. So this team is, loaded for bear again in terms of they've basically got everybody back healthy for the most part. I mean, Hayden Fleury, a depth defenseman, is really the only one banged up right now for the Lightning. So it's a fully healthy team, and they're playing absolutely their best hockey of the year. It's not easy to step in front of them right now. Can you trust Detroit? I mean, they are snapped a 3-game losing streak, beating Columbus 4-2 the other night. Their road record is only 500, 5-5 on the road. Tampa 8-4 so far this season at home. And as we've often seen in the past with Tampa Bay, Detroit, Tampa Bay's done pretty well with this team. That being said, the last time Tampa hosted Detroit, it was last year late in the season in April. Detroit as a plus 380 underdog with a 4-3 win against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, part of me kind of wants to take Detroit here in a spot like this. I mean, you think about this gauntlet that Tampa Bay's run through here. Toronto, couple games with Boston. They played a barn burner with Buffalo as well. You play Detroit here on this homestand. It feels like this could be just that little spot where you get Tampa's best tonight. If you don't, we know Detroit is capable on any given night sneaking up on you, pulling the kind of upset. So I might put a couple bucks pizza money style on Detroit. Nothing I'm overly strong about, but I do think there's some situationals that point to the Red Wings here tonight. Nick, we'll start with you on this one. Red Wings Lightning.
Yeah. One thing I'm starting to do, I started it yesterday. I'm going to continue to see how it goes. Just do small bets on these. Whenever my numbers suggest that the game is within a quarter of a goal, my projected score, I'm going to throw a little bit of money on the draw. And this is one that we're going to get out the pencil and paper, and we're going to draw this game. Plus 385 is what I got. And then when we look at Detroit, offensively, they've actually looked pretty good. Looking at their expected numbers, at least 3 expected goals in 6 of their last 7 games. So offensively, they are creating opportunities. They are creating chances. And on the opposite side, Tampa Bay has given up at least 3 in 5 of their last 6. So this is a team that is becoming a little bit vulnerable defensively. And Vasilevsky has not been up to the Vasilevsky level that we've had the last few seasons. He's slightly above average goaltender, according to my numbers. He's not a top 5 goaltender like he has been the last few years. So I did take a shot with Detroit in this game. Plus 205 is what I got. And I also kind of did a little bit of similar to what I did with Ottawa, team total over 2.5 and money line plus 205 with the Detroit Red Wings. I think this could be a 3-3 draw heading into overtime, something along those lines. So small bet on the draw, and Red Wings plus team total over 2.5 and money line.
There you go with the big dogs. And like I say, that's what I did with Montreal, and I split it team total over and money line. And right there last night with Montreal, just a horrible job coughing up that lead against Vancouver. But you saw the benefit of that is at least you get the team total over as a winner in your bank account or in your sports betting bankroll, even though the money line falls apart. So that's the benefit of splitting up a big dog in particular with money line and the team total over, and Nick doing that with Detroit. That's probably what I would look to do as well as the team total over money line split, just because, you don't want to be in a spot like Detroit gets 3 goals tonight, loses 4-3, and you lose the money line. If that's the only thing you bet, at least if you have the team total over as well, you split and you minimize the damage that way. Terry, what do you think here? Red Wings Lightning.
Yeah, one of the few games I have absolutely nothing on today's slate. I am seeing Husso is likely, so it does look like he will be in net. I kind of want to take a shot with the Red Wings at this price. They have won 2 of their last 3 meetings in Tampa. Obviously, they had a long losing streak against Tampa before that, but you have to look at what this Detroit team has been the last 7 years and what Tampa has been. So obviously, Detroit's improved a lot over last year and this year, but Tampa's playing so well right now. I don't want to step in front of them at home. So ultimately, this game's a pass. A big slate, and this game's a pass for me.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Jaric, how about you? Detroit, Tampa Bay.
So I'm looking at it the same way kind of you are, Ian and Nick. I like Detroit plus 1.5 and the draw, and I'm going to give like other reasons to support what you guys have already said. I mean, it's a house of horrors in Tampa Bay for Detroit. They've lost 19 to 23 meetings there. Now, with that info, you're kind of thinking, oh, well, Tampa Bay is going to kind of soar to a victory. I'm thinking not so fast, kind of like Alex likes to say. Tampa Bay this year, every time they puck line somebody, they have not covered that next game. Whether, it was a win, then they've lost, or, won by 1 the next game. They've won by 2. They do not win by 2 the next game. That has failed to happen every single time this year. And 4 or 5 of the last 6 meetings between these two teams have been decided by 1 goal. I think this matches up perfectly here for this to be, like a 4-3 kind of game. I'm not going to take the Detroit money line. If you please to, go right ahead. I'm going to take the plus 1.5. I got it minus 125, and I put a half unit on the draw. I found it plus 370.
Yeah, I mean, you're right about the series history being tight. I mean, 4-3 Detroit in Tampa, the last meeting of last season. Then you had a 2-1. Yeah.
Real quick, Ian, I don't want to cut you off, but if your books offer like a Tampa Bay to win by 1, including overtime prop, you could probably find that like plus 270, plus 280. I think that could be a good look as well in this game.
Yeah, that isn't bad because they've had a history of only beating Detroit by narrow margins the last few. I mean, 2-1 Tampa overtime, 3-1 over Detroit, and I think they needed an empty net goal to get to 3-1 in that game as well. 7-6 over Detroit in overtime, 2-1 over Detroit May 2nd, 2020. I mean, 1-goal games, tight games. So,
and I'm very intrigued in this puck line stat with Tampa Bay, how they've yet to cover 2 in a row as favorites.
That is, yeah.
I do have that number. If you want Tampa Bay margin of victory by 1 goal, it's $3 plus 300.
All right, there we go. Plus 300, even better if you like that route. As far as the props go, I wouldn't try to overthink it with the Lightning. If you're going to look for props, you look at Point, you look at Stamkos, you look at Kucherov, you build a little same-game parlay, something I'm doing a lot more. The same-game parlay I built for the Montreal-Vancouver game last night worked out perfectly. I had Horvat goal, Caulfield and Suzuki a point at plus 320 it was for that, and it came through. So
seems pretty simple when there's 13 goals, right?
That's right.
In this game, too, speaking of props, Sundqvist, he has 3 goals in his last 5 games, and he has 4 goals in 8 games against Andrei Vasilevsky. He's plus 600 to score tonight.
I agree with that.
I'm looking right at that.
Bin. That's a good bargain bin. We talk about Philip Hronek, too, who was on this little run for Detroit on the blue line. He's cooled off a little bit, but he's still shooting the puck a lot. When you can get plus 750, all you got to do is hit one of those and you're good, even if you've dropped a few in a row. So Philip Hronek's probably someone that's worth that look for the Detroit side of things. No question about that. Certainly, Lucas Raymond's been good lately for the Red Wings. You just don't get that price that you want necessarily with him, but definitely some good options there for the player props, really on both sides. Again, for Tampa, most of their damage is Kucherov, Stamkos, and Point lately. So, you build something like a points prop and a combination. Like I've got one planned that I've actually already bet that I'm going to mention for Toronto and Dallas later tonight that I think's got a great opportunity there. Columbus and Pittsburgh. We've got Pittsburgh minus 270 home favorites, 6.5 being the total in this one. Very interesting that the Pittsburgh Penguins all of a sudden have a lot of personnel concerns going into this game tonight. We know already the injuries to Chris Letang, or the stroke, obviously, of Chris Letang, keeping him out of the lineup, although it looks like he's progressing, says head coach Mike Sullivan, which is very good news. But both Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin the two faces of the franchise for basically the last almost 20 years. Both of them game time decisions. It's an illness for Crosby and an illness for Malkin coming into this game tonight. He says, we anticipate that they will play, but they're all game time decisions. So unless there's a big downturn in their status and their health before the game, it sounds like they're going to play here in this one tonight for the Penguins. But definitely it had people alarmed at first. Nevertheless, are they going to be at 100% is the question. Columbus, even in their losses, and they finally did lose one in their last game, Columbus to the Detroit Red Wings. You look at this Columbus team, they're fighting the good fight, even with just how many key injuries they have. The losses that they've had have all been pretty competitive ones. 1-goal loss to the Islanders, shootout loss to Vegas, 4-2 loss to Detroit, where they battled back in that game, and then the Red Wings ended up taking it 4-2. I mean, the effort's been very good for this depleted, short-handed, ravaged Columbus team, but I keep saying that at some point, things have got to run out a little bit in terms of what this team's capable of doing. They're still without 4 starting defensemen: Werenski, Boquist, Blankenberg, Bean, Danforth, Voracek out up front. Thank goodness for them. They just got Patrick Laine back, which at least bolsters that forward group a bit, which has also been battling some injuries lately. I think when I look at this game, Columbus and Pittsburgh, we've seen each of the last 2 meetings trend a little bit to the over. I still think of Columbus as a team that's more of an over team. Hasn't been that way lately, though. 5 straight unders for the Columbus Blue Jackets as they've somehow, ended up, even with all the defensemen out, going under the total. Mostly a combination of, kind of like what Toronto's done, where they have all the defensemen out, and yet the team's just back-checking harder and playing as a tighter group, defensively away from the puck. And I think Columbus is kind of doing that as well. Merzlikins will be returning tonight and will get the start for the Jackets. It'll be his first appearance since November the 15th when he got the injury against Philadelphia after that lower body injury. How sharp will he be? We're talking about someone that hasn't played in almost a month, and it's someone that has a worrisome track record this season. He hasn't been able to find his form. 4.74 goals against, 864 save percentage. Those are beyond hideous. I believe he's dead last or close to it. Goals saved above average. We've talked about that multiple times. So I got to pull the trigger on the over. I mean, I'm very, I didn't love seeing that Columbus lately has been trending that way, but I've got to see it from Merzlikins. And we talk about how that just dramatic incident involving his best friend, his countryman, in the firework incident, Matisse Kivlenix passing away right in front of him, essentially, is where it happened. It's left traumatic scars, I think, for him. And it's also proved to be difficult to put that behind him and play well, I think, on the ice. I think some of it is mental. It's not just physical that, all of a sudden he's forgot how to stop a fucking puck. I think it's just, I think the mental side of it has definitely plagued Merzlikins as well with his struggles. So I'm going to go ahead with over 6.5 here in this one, minus 125 here with the Jackets and the Penguins. Terry, what do you think here, Columbus, Pittsburgh?
I completely agree with what you just said about Merzlikins. I think if he is traded somewhere else, I think he needs to be traded out of Columbus. The cannon affects him. He said that.
I think he said that. Yeah, he was on record.
Yeah, he said that.
Yeah.
And he needs to get traded. He needs to get a fresh start. But with this game specifically, Merzlikins has struggled. 6 of the 7 games he played in this year went over. And he struggled very badly against this Pittsburgh team. He's lost all 4 games, 888 save percentage, 4.65 goals against. Tristan Jarry on the other side, 5-1 in 6 starts against Columbus with a 936 save percentage and a 1.77 goals against. Pittsburgh has absolutely dominated Columbus, 20 wins, 4 losses, 1 overtime loss in the last 25 meetings. They've won their last 14 games at home against Columbus. 10 of those 14 were puck line wins. Pittsburgh's covered the puck line in 5 of their last 7 games. I'm taking the Pittsburgh Penguins on the puck line here. I get it, Crosby and Malkin. I expect them to play. I don't expect them to be 100%. I do expect them to play, but this Pittsburgh team just completely dominates Columbus, and I have to take the Penguins on the puck line here. I think even if Crosby and Malkin aren't 100%, other players will step up and the Penguins will win this by multiple goals. I love the Penguins in this one.
Yeah, Jake Gensel is on a very big point streak right now for the Penguins as well. As is, Gensel. It is Gensel. 6 points in the last 4 games here for the Penguins. He's been terrific. A 3-point night for Zucker, and I keep saying Zucker. Zucker's one of those players to look out for moving forward. And I'm going to throw one out there as well, because sometimes you can't put a puck in the ocean. You're starting to wonder if you're ever going to score again with the kind of slump this guy was on. And then all of a sudden, a couple games ago, he busts out, and now he's got the confidence. It's like a snowball downhill now. He's got it back. He's feeling it again. And that's Kasperi Kapanen for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Look, it's just a guy that had been just dreadful offensively, to the point where he was in Mike Sullivan's doghouse. He was a healthy scratch for a few games. Where's his offense? And all of a sudden, he snaps the goal drought. December, last week against Vegas in that 4-3 win, he gets a goal and an assist, and it's just like the confidence. It's like the monkey is off the back, and all of a sudden you can relax. You can go out there and play, and all of a sudden everything comes at easier for you when you get the first goal and you get that slump busted. And sure enough, he has a hat trick against St. Louis. Now, St. Louis is brutal right now, especially defensively, but at the same point in time, he's now got 4 goals all of a sudden in 2 games. You ride it, I think, with Kapanen right now, that he's found it. He's got his confidence back. He's got his mojo back offensively. Definitely think he's worth a look in terms of goal props. For Columbus, I would go Roslovic, Lyon. I'd go Kent Johnson, too. Kent Johnson continues to be totally undervalued. We saw this kid play for Canada at the World Juniors. He's going to be a big-time offensive player, I think, at this level, and he's already showing signs of that for the Blue Jackets. So I really like the Kent Johnson prop, probably my favorite one on the Columbus side. In a game where I think we'll see some goals, Kent Johnson, I think, definitely for the Blue Jackets worth a look. He scored 3 goals in the last 6 games, and he also has 5 points in the last 6 games for this Columbus team. Nick, what do you think here, Columbus-Pittsburgh?
Yeah, if you're looking for goals in this game, if you're looking for goals, this is the game for you. I have this game projected for 8.62 goals, and it's pretty simple. My model will refuse to let me back Elvis Merzlikins, and I have no interest in him because he is dead last in the NHL and goals saved above average.
Yep.
At negative 12.9, he's given up 36 goals this year, but only 23.08 expected goals against. He has been horrible, and now we're getting him off of a long absence, an injury. And I don't know if I've ever played a number like this, but I actually took a team total over 4.5 today at plus 140 with the Pittsburgh Penguins. It's pretty simple. I have the Penguins projected for 5.5 goals. And I see this as a 5-2, 6-3 sort of type of game here. Probably going to look for props on the Penguin side for sure. Probably a couple on the Columbus side as well, because I do think Columbus will get a couple on their side as well. Yari has been a below average goaltender this year, according to my numbers as well. Slightly, 1.01 goalie rating when 1 is my average and below 1's better. Because I treat my goalie rankings and things like that. That's like the multiplier when we're looking at when I'm looking at the goals for, goals against, expected goals for, expected goals against, and putting the goalie in there, it kind of multiplies out their goals to give me where it should be. Elvis Merzlikins is the worst on my spreadsheet at a 1.56. So he has been horrible this year. So I'm on the Penguins team total over 4.5 at $1.40. And I got the over 6.5 as well. I would play alternative over 7.5 in this game as well, potentially.
There we go. So take a look at the alternative totals, and that's always a good option. It's called maximizing your return on investment, as they say. If you go that 7.5, 8.5 route when you really like an over and you really think there's a chance to see a ton of goals, and similarly, you could do that with an under. You could go 3.5, 4.5 instead of say 5.5 or 6.5. So always options with the alternative puck lines, alternative totals offered by most sports books, so that you can get a little bit more bang for your buck. Jaric, how about you? Jackets, Penguins.
So this was a game I looked at on the slate, and I was like, you don't got to bet it. You don't got to bet every game. So this is ultimately going to be a pass for me, but I did write down stuff for the sake of the show. So, Pittsburgh's finally coming to their own now. They're 6-0-2 in Jari's last 8 starts. And, what Terry and Nick said, I agree that the puck line would probably be the best play here if you want to pick a side. I think 5-2 sounds about right in the projections that Nick was putting together. I mean, he's got the over 7.5, so maybe 6-3, 5-3, something along those lines. But I think Pittsburgh's going to put up 4 or 5 goals. I was looking at the team total, but it was out of my price range at -150, -155. I won't touch anything that's past -145. That's just my own personal preference. But if I had to absolutely play something, I would bet Jake Gensel to score a goal, even though he's -105. The point streak you mentioned he's been on, he's got 6 goals in 6 games against Korpisalo is not getting the start tonight, so scratch that. I actually had that written down. Resmers Lincoln's is going to go, but I still find Gensel with Crosby and Malkin, being under the weather, he's going to have to carry the weight on that top line for Pittsburgh.
It'll be interesting. They're going to play. I don't doubt that, especially when I see the Sullivan comments. I think they're going to try to gut through it. It's just a question of how good, well are they going to feel, and how effective are they going to be in their state right now, battling through illness. So we'll see how it plays out. All right, Chicago and New Jersey. We've got how about you want to lay -410 with the New Jersey Devils? 6.5 the total in this game. Can't do it, obviously. Obviously, we know on paper this is a pretty sizable mismatch. That being said, I'll say this about Chicago. Other than the Winnipeg game got away from them, the Winnipeg game got away from them. They've been pretty competitive. I mean, look at some of these recent results. 5-3 loss to Pittsburgh. They were right in that hockey game for the most part. They blew it in the third period against Dallas. Remember, they were up 4-1. They lost 6-4. They took Montreal to a shootout. Like I said, the Winnipeg game against the Jets got away from them. They lost 7-2. There was a horrible game from Mrazek. I remember that night, that 7-2 loss. They battle Edmonton pretty tough, losing that game 5-4. They have the win against the Rangers 5-2, and even the Islander game last night. I mean, that's scoreless well into the second period before all of a sudden, bang, bang, bang. They go bang, 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 the New York Islanders late in the second period, get their 3 goals, and then just sit on the lead and cruise to a 3-0 win against Chicago. So, I don't think this is a team that work ethic-wise, effort-wise, they're mailing it in. The effort's there. It's just they're not very good, that at the end of the day. And there's obviously nowhere close to as good talent-wise, depth-wise, as this New Jersey Devils team right now. I think what's alarming for Chicago is that New Jersey has actually won 3 of the last 4 meetings at home against the Blackhawks, going back to, I think, 2017. And some of those seasons were better Chicago teams than this one, and some horrible New Jersey teams. And New Jersey still got the better of Chicago in this building. Now what's going to happen with obviously this being the worst Chicago team in years and the best New Jersey team in years? So you have to factor that in. But it is well priced. Like I said, -410. I don't feel really good about this game one way or another. You could get to the over, because I will say 3 straight overs, 7-1, 4-3, 8-5 final scores. I think that's the lean for me, is toward there being this game going over the total. Soderblom is still not someone I'm trusting one game to the next. He's had some good moments. He's had some bad ones. He gives up 5 to Edmonton. He gave up 3 in the loss to the Islanders, although it could have been worse. He did face 40 shots in that game Sunday night. I'd maybe look at the over, but I would stay far away from a side. New Jersey should, take care of business, but I'm not going to lay this price. And there's no value even with puck lines or regulation lines for the Devils tonight either. And even the team total on New Jersey, you've got to go over 4 -125 at BetMGM to get any sort of value on the Devils team total. So you basically need 5 goals from this team to cash a team total with them tonight at a reasonable price. So maybe I get there over 6.5, but other than that, not a strong feel for this game, at least from my standpoint. Terry, how about you? Blackhawks, Devils.
I've really enjoyed backing the Devils throughout their streak here. But at -410, and the puck line, I think, is like -140 or -150.
Secrets out. They're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
-410.
And like you said, they've had success against the Blackhawks, but it goes back even further. 10-1-4 in the last 15 home games against Chicago. The Devils have had success when the Blackhawks come here. The only thing I could get to in this game is Jack Hughes to score. What else can be said about Jack Hughes right now, except he's lighting the lamp and I can't see him. Like, this is a perfect spot for him. The Blackhawks coming in here at home. I think Hughes puts on a show. Cubano was saying this smells like a Jack Hughes hat trick. I haven't gone that far, but I want to talk you off it. He's been putting on shows lately, so Jack Hughes to score is my only way I can get involved in with this game at this price.
The more I look at it, the more over 6.5 could get there. New Jersey's probably going to get theirs. It's fair to assume. But Vanacek, for as great as he's been, he has given up 7 in his last 2 starts combined. So it's been a slight little dip for him in the last 2 games. Thing is with Chicago is I've seen them generate, have the puck, generate chances, generate offensive zone time, not do enough with it. That's sometimes a problem they run into. And we saw that against the Islanders. But in theory, too, teams after a shutout loss, usually offensively, that's where their focus is. Get that offense going. We'll see if Chicago can do that tonight. Nick, how about you? Chicago, New Jersey.
As much as I love big underdogs, it is Blackhawks or nothing at this price for sure. And I'm somebody who was pretty high on the Devils a couple games in because I believe it was like 4 or 5 games in. They lost the first 2 games by 3 or more goals. But I was pointing out that their advanced analytics, if they just got competent goaltending, this was going to be an elite team, and they have been an elite team this year. And I remember so many people beginning of the season were looking at their point totals like 90 and a half or whatever. And we're like, that feels way too high. And then when you looked at it from Devil's Advocate, it's like maybe they put it that high for a reason. This New Jersey's team is good. I did not make a play on this game. I was going to make a play on the over 6.5. I needed Mrazek to do that more than Soderblom. Soderblom on my spreadsheet has been the much better goaltender. So for me, I needed Mrazek for the over. I did not make a play in this game. It's Blackhawks or nothing.
All right, Jaric, Chicago, New Jersey.
All right, the hometown Chicago boy is going to go for that top 3 pick in the draft this year. I was thinking, too, while I was just kind of listening to you guys talk, Merzlikins might not be a bad option if they got to get him out of Columbus. Might not kind of sell low or kind of sell low, buy high on him in Chicago. Maybe he finds his game here. But in terms of the Blackhawks and the Devils, obviously you talked about there's no value on the money line, the puck line, anything there. But Otto mentioned in the chat, Chris Otto, 9 straight first period unders for Chicago, and they're 1-3-1 in their last 5 road first periods. And that one win was against the New York Rangers, and they historically play really well in Madison Square Garden. So in my mind, I immediately throw that one win out, and I'm like, okay, going into a game here against New Jersey where they've lost 7 straight first periods at the Rock. I think it's a perfect spot to bet New Jersey in the first period. I got them at plus 100, and that's a way to find value on this game. And I think Jack Hughes, he's going to score a goal. That's probably going to end up making my card. He's got 4 goals in 4 games against Chicago. He's got 1 in every single time he's matched up against the Hawks. We got Cubano in the chat mentioning the hat trick. I would maybe, if you have, a book that offers 3+ points, I know PointsBet does, I would maybe bet Jack Hughes a little bit to get 3+ points in this game.
Yeah, if you're going to build any SGPs in this game, same game parlays, I'm going to start using that acronym SGPs. Hughes points has to be in there. I mean, he's just absolutely outstanding right now for the Devils. Going to throw in, usually a goal prop as well if you want in the mix, but definitely that's something you want to consider. Jack Hughes has been magnificent, really, especially the back part of this winning streak and this point streak that the Devils have been on, no question. So we'll see how this one goes, and we'll see if the Devils can avoid the trap game syndrome here against the Chicago Blackhawks. All right, next up, we've got the St. Louis Blues and New York Islanders. Islanders minus 180, home favorites here, 5.5 being the total in this game. And look, sometimes with the Islanders and a team that has now gone 6-1 to the under in their last 7 games, it's pulling teeth to bet their games over the total sometimes. I totally get that. But we're talking 5.5 here, and this Blues team is just a train wreck in their own zone right now. I can't even say it enough. They're awful in their own end. They're coughing up the puck like crazy. The turnovers are just beyond bad. And last night it was turnovers. It was bad puck management that cost the Blues that third period lead against the Rangers last night. They cannot manage the puck. They cannot get a save either from Baby Binnington, as I like to call him. And I'm really upset with that guy. That's why I'm harsh with the Baby Binnington comments. Not happy at all. This guy's stinking the joint up just like his whole team right now. And he's trying to act like he's taken over there and body checking players when he knows he can't do that as a goaltender, flapping his gums to the opposing bench when he's getting pulled. I mean, your play has been poor, and you're still going to flap your gums to the opposing bench. I mean, it boggles the mind, the antics. Berube had enough, and you would think maybe last night, called out by his coach, it's time to step up and play well and stop the puck like Craig Berube was imploring his goaltender to do, and he didn't do it. I mean, we're finding these long distance shots, point shots, shots from well out are beating Jordan Binnington clean. And that is a sign of a goalie that's not on his game right now for the St. Louis Blues. And again, bad defensive hockey last night from them once again. I would think that they got to give Binnington a rest. I think they may need to rest him for not just – the problem is if you rest him, you got to go to Thomas Greiss, who's been horrible this year for the Blues in net. 3.57 goals against average for him, 907 save percentage. Last game against his last start, rather, was against Florida. He gave up the 4 goals there, especially early. He was not sharp. Thankfully, the offense bailed him out in that comeback win. He gave up 4 goals against Washington, 5 against Philadelphia. But he's probably going to be in net tonight because it's a back-to-back, and you're definitely, in my opinion, not going to see Binnington here. So you've got this goaltender with bad numbers, a defense that cannot keep the puck out of their own net, horrible penalty killing right now from the Blues. I got to look over 5.5. We're not asking for a massive high-scoring affair. We're asking for a team that's given up 4, 5, 6 goals with regularity to give up that much tonight against the Islanders. Now, the Islanders can drive you nuts offensively because you saw against Chicago, they get the 3 goals, they sit on the lead, they don't look for more. They only scored 1 against Nashville. They only scored 1 against the Islanders, or against the Flyers, rather, when they lost last week. But it's got to be a night when you got to believe that Barzal and company, Beauvillier, Andersley, Wallstrom, and everybody, Brock Nelson, come to life offensively against a team that's got zilch in terms of defensive confidence right now. They panic now with the puck on their stick. That's what we're seeing from the St. Louis Blues. So I'm going to roll with over 5.5, and I probably do a split with that and the Islanders team total over 3.5 here in this one. I feel like I should slant more toward the Islanders doing the brunt of the scoring tonight, but I also like that over 5.5. Again, 5.5 with I'm mad at myself that I did not bet over 5.5 with the Blues and the Rangers. That shit dropped from 6 to 5.5. I didn't take the over 5.5. Mad at that decision. I'm not going to make that mistake tonight. What do you think here, Terry? Blues, Islanders?
Yeah, Blues, like you said, they've lost 6 of their last 7 games, all by 2 or more goals. They've allowed 4+ goals in 7 straight games. They're allowing goals to everybody. Islanders playing well, 5-2 in their last 7, 3 of the 5 by multiple goals. And they've had success against St. Louis, 5-0-1 in the last 6 games at home against St. Louis, 6-1-1 in the last 8 meetings between the teams. The Islanders, never a team that I would normally run to the window to back on the puck line, but I'm taking them in regulation at plus 100 and on the puck line plus 155. I think that's the best way to go in this game. Islanders are rested. Blues have been playing a lot of hockey, and like you said, the Islanders offense sometimes might not be able to get the 5 or 6 goals. And not applicable in the chat says 3-0 again. I could see that. I could see this being like a 3-0, 4-0 type game. So I'm taking Islanders on the puck line and in regulation. I really like them tonight.
All right, Islanders, a split there in regulation, close to even money, and then of course the puck line minus 1.5 on them as well, which you can get right now around plus 150 with the Islanders on the puck line. Nick Earle, here he is, our resident Islander fan. What does he think here, Blues Islanders?
Yeah, my model loves the Islanders, and has for a while, and that's mainly because of 2 people, Ilya Sorokin and Semyon Varlamov. Even Varlamov has been a well above average goaltender this year. This is probably one of the better goalie duos in hockey, and reflects into the way my model projects these scores. I have this game at 3.67 to 2.18. So I think that 5.5 is spot on because my number is 5.54 for this game. I did take the New York Islanders -1. I got it at -101. one of those split bets between the puck line and the money line. And it's mainly because I do believe the Islanders win this game. I don't know if I trust them to cover a puck line. So if they win this game by 1, I can get my push and move on. But this Islanders team, I think, is a bet-on team going forward. And with Thomas Greiss, he's been horrible. One thing that I will say with him, though, is he's going up against his former team. So that could be an interesting angle as well for people who do like St. Louis in this spot. I personally don't, because this Blues offense has not been good, and this Blues defense has been even worse. So I'm on the Islanders here, fading the Blues on a second half of a back-to-back with my spreadsheet's best goalie in the NHL, Ilya Sorokin.
He's had a great year. There's no question about it. He's had a couple bumps here and there, but for the most part, he's been really, really good this year for the Islanders. He'll be in net. And again, on paper, Greiss can be motivated all the fuck he wants to play his old team. He hasn't stopped a puck consistently since he's been an Islander, because he hasn't done it ever since he left there. Detroit was a disaster, and this year's been a rough year for him so far. Jaric, what do you think here?
Yeah, so I actually, when I was capping this last night, the total was at a 6. I didn't see it at a 5.5. So that was kind of news to me when we hopped on the air here. And now that it's a 5.5, I am intrigued on the full game over 2, because you look at the last couple 5.5s the Islanders have had here. The 5-4 game goes over against Nashville easily, 5-2 against Dallas. And then you had the game against Nashville that was 4-1. It went under, but they put up 49 shots on goal, and it was a Kevin Lankinen masterclass. So I think, it was a goaltending win that ultimately sent that game under. The Chicago game, I watch a lot of the Blackhawks. I think they got like 6 skaters that are good with the puck. That game, 3-0 sounded about right, especially with their series history too between the two teams. So I'm liking the over 5.5 here. I think it makes a lot of sense at that number. Obviously, the Blues are in a tailspin. They've given up 4 goals in 7 straight games, which is insane. I mean, the Isles team total was at plus money. I got it at plus 105 over 3.5 goals. So I jumped on that. Worth noting, Isles 8-2 in the last 10 first periods at home, and the Blues 5-4 in their last 10 on the road. So both teams stink here in the first 20 minutes in this spot. I mean, Isles 2-8 to the last 10 at the home games, like I mentioned. I would, maybe bet a live over. I saw Otto mention it in the chat. You can maybe get a 4, 4.5. I think that might be a good spot to look at in this game. But the team total over 3.5 did make my card.
All right, next up, Florida and Winnipeg. We've got even money here. Actually, Florida's moving to a slight road favorite here, minus 115 road favorite, 6 being the total in this game. I'm going to do a unique approach here with this game. I'm going to take Winnipeg first period in this game because of something that occurred in the Sunday game against Anaheim. They were awful in the first period against the Anaheim Ducks. Absolutely awful. And if you watched what Rick Bowness said after the game, they came back and won. You think, okay, you had a bad start, came back, won the hockey game. You're happy, obviously, coming back and winning that game. Rick Bowness wasn't happy. He said, our start, it's unacceptable to start a game like that. I'm not here to babysit these guys. They're paid professionals. You're supposed to be able to show up to work and be ready to go. Wasn't happy. You wouldn't think that was the coach of a winning hockey team after that win against Anaheim. That first period was abysmal. I think that's what you're going to see, because that's now 2 games in a row on home ice against inferior competition where they have started slow against Columbus and Winnipeg. They paid the price for it against Columbus. They started slow and they didn't rebound in that game. They lost to the Jackets on Friday night, and it almost cost them against Anaheim on Sunday, but they did bounce back. And they did get the win in that game. I think now is the spot where, especially now with a pretty good, although they haven't been great this year, but what we thought coming into the year was going to be a very good Florida team that's been very inconsistent this year coming in. That'll get Florida's attention. They get to see their old head coach, Paul Maurice, of course, who gets to make his return to Winnipeg. I can't really say since he got fired. It was, I don't know, a mutual parting of the ways. He kind of had enough and he resigned. He stepped down. But either way, it's his return to Winnipeg. So, maybe that fuels the Panthers a little bit. We did see it with Cassidy last night, but a little bit of a different situation. Cassidy got unceremoniously canned by the Boston Bruins in the offseason. That was not the situation at all with Paul Maurice and Winnipeg. I think they just, it's time to go our separate ways, get a new voice in here. So a little bit different. Florida is off back-to-back wins. They played better, beating Vancouver and Seattle in back-to-back games. So they'll be rolling in here with a little bit more confidence. They finally got a goaltender to make some saves for them. And that has been significant. The defense has been a little bit better these last 2 games, and you can thank Spencer Knight for that. This has to be Spencer Knight moving forward. We've said that a bunch of times. Bobrovsky ain't it right now at this stage of his career. Spencer Knight's been the better goalie. It will be him in net for the Panthers tonight. Connor Hellebuck in net for the Jets. Barkov's still out, by the way, for the Panthers, as is Anton Lundell. So they're a little bit depleted at center. That's 2 of their starting centers that are going to be out tonight for the Panthers. Radko Gudas on the blue line also injured and won't play tonight for the Panthers. I'd probably lean Winnipeg in the full game, but I think the first period's the best part of the game to hone in on after what Bowness said about his team after the Anaheim game. Said, can't have these slow starts again. Enough of them. Back-to-back against Columbus and Anaheim. Horrible in the first 20 minutes with the Winnipeg Jets. So I like them here to be strong and be focused on a good start tonight in the first 20 minutes at home against Florida. So Winnipeg first period money line for me. Terry, what do you think here? Panthers, Jets.
Yeah, we have Hellebuck and Spencer Knight in net today. So most people might look at those 2 and say, I like the under. This is my not so fast for the day. Florida has gone over 6.5 in 8 of their last 11 games. The 3 games that didn't go over finished with 6 goals. Winnipeg has gone over 6.5 in 5 of their last 7 games, and they've scored 5+ goals in 4 of their last 5 games. So this Winnipeg team is scoring a lot of goals. 5 of the last 7 meetings between these 2 teams have gone over 6.5. The 2 games that didn't go over finished with 6 goals. This total moving to a 6. I think this is the kind of exact repeat of yesterday with the Rangers game going from a 6 to a 5.5. I think this total is moving the wrong way. I get it. We have Hellebuck, who has been amazing this year. But this Florida offense should be able to get a couple past him. This Winnipeg offense is lighting the lamp. Give me the over 6 in this one. And then if I had to choose a side, I would lean with the Winnipeg Jets just because Hellebuck has been better. Knight obviously was amazing to start the year, but he's been giving up goals as of late as well. So I like this game over. I don't know why this is at a 6.
Yeah, I mean, I worry that Knight and Hellebuck both played lights out, huge anticipated game like that. But I can't argue with the numbers. Everything supports the over here. I mean, look at series history. Of the last 7 meetings, it's been 1, 2, 4, and 4, 0, and 3 to the O. It's been 4 overs and 3 pushes, but nothing's been below 6 goals. All right, in the last 7 head-to-head meetings. You look at current form. Panthers trending over 8-1-1 their last 10. Winnipeg 5-2 to the over their last 7. I mean, everything's pointing to the over, and I would certainly lean strong that way. But again, these 2 goalies, I got feel that they're going to have a big game tonight, both of them. Knight's in good form. Hellebuck, of course, has had a sensational start to the year. We'll see, but that's the only thing keeping me off the over, the only thing. But I definitely lean in that direction that this game could push its way over the total. But like I said, my favorite stance on this game is that Jets first period. What do you think here, Nick? Panthers, Jets?
My projections for this game suggest the wrong team is favored. I like the Winnipeg Jets here. I got him yesterday at plus 108. This line has moved a couple cents in my direction there. They're on even money now. And I have this game projected 2.85 to 2.46. So I have this game projected for 5.3 goals. So I think this line's moved correctly, the total. And I did jump in on the team total under 3.5 for Florida. I wanted to focus more on backing Connor Hellebuck, which is a goaltender I've been backing a lot this year. Winnipeg's been one of my better teams this year that I've backed. It feels the game in and game out because my motto loves the top end goaltenders and things along those lines. And Connor Hellebuck has been that this year. He's definitely in the top 3 for my Vezina votes right now. Between him, Sorokin, and probably Carter Hart in there, even though he's come back down to earth a little bit. But Connor Hellebuck is somebody that I'm looking to back in any way, shape, or form. My motto loves him. So I've got the Winnipeg Jets money line, and I got the team total under 3.5 for Florida.
There you go, Jets money line and Florida team total under for Nick with this one. Jaric, how about you? Florida, Winnipeg.
So we saw yesterday Bruce Cassidy went up to Boston, his old club, and he ended up getting a victory. But I don't think that's going to happen tonight with Paul Maurice going back to Winnipeg. I do like the Jets tonight. I agree with Nick. The wrong team is definitely favored here, especially with the injuries to Florida. When I saw the injuries, I was really surprised at the line. That threw me off. This matchup from a total perspective is annoying to me, though, because 10 of 14 Panther road games have gone over and 10 of 12 Jet home games have gone under. So I don't want to go, head to head with the contradicting numbers there. But, due to the injury report and everything for Florida and the line, I'm definitely going to ride Winnipeg here. I got a minus 105. I bet him yesterday, so the line did move a little bit in favor of other people, but I'm going to just ride with my minus 105. So, yeah, Winnipeg, I think, easy spot. And I like the first period you mentioned. I think that's going to be a hot start for them as well.
Yeah, and definitely from a goal scorer prop standpoint, a couple options that are intriguing here in this game. E2 Coolmint Lusterinen is up to the second line. Nick Cousins is up to the second line for the Florida Panthers. Those are intriguing options. The ice time is going to go up for both of them. And Nick Cousins, I remember him scoring recently. Not known as a goal scorer, but hey, you're going to play with good players and up the lineup. You're going to have a chance to make an impact. Same with Lusterinen on that second line. And for Winnipeg, there's a lot of decent options for them because they've given Morgan Barron a shot up the lineup. He finally got a goal the other night. I would maybe come back to the well with Morgan Barron. Cole Perfetti might be on the top line with Scheifele and Wheeler tonight. Cole Perfetti might be worth a look here. There's someone with a bunch of high ceiling offensive potential for the Winnipeg Jets long term. And they're also elevating someone that I think Cheshire Cat in the chat mentioned him before. Mikey Isamont for the Winnipeg Jets is going to be playing up in the second line tonight with PLD, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and Kyle Connor. So there's a bunch of players that are going to get increased ice time that aren't going to be reflected that way with the goal prop. So definitely good options there with that. All right, maybe the game of the night. This is the ESPN Plus national TV game. Toronto Maple Leafs, Dallas Stars. Dallas minus 120. Home favorite 6.5. The total. Not so much a strong opinion side or total in this game because I think this is one of those games where Toronto wins wouldn't shock me. Dallas wins wouldn't shock me. Over or under wouldn't shock me. Keep in mind you've got Matt Murray who's playing very well for the Leafs since he came back from injury. You got to believe Jake Ottinger's going to figure it out at some point. And this could be the night where you get the vintage Jake Ottinger. I'm sure he's not thrilled getting pulled against Terry Edelman's Minnesota Wild on Sunday in that crazy game. Unbelievable. I'm sure it gave Terry a heart attack watching it. 5-1 lead for the Wild. Can't even hold it. 5-5. And they needed a shootout to rescue that victory over the Dallas Stars. A wild one. You would think Dallas, in theory, wants to tighten it up. And in theory, Jake Ottinger wants to bounce back. We know there's a quality goaltender in this guy. He's definitely had ups and downs, inconsistency since returning from that injury. But you'd expect he'd want to play better tonight. And you'd expect Toronto to want to play a little tighter defensively because Sheldon Keefe said we got away from our defensive structure. Even with the injuries, we've all dug in defensively as a five-man group with Morgan Riley out and Brody out and Muzzin out. And we got away from that a little bit against Tampa Bay. And also some penalty trouble hurt them. They might want to get back to playing a little tighter. So 6.5, and it's kind of shifted down to 6 in a couple of books. So I could see that. I'm off the side in the total. This is more of a prop game, and this is one of my favorite prop games because we've got two of the most red-hot players in the NHL going head-to-head tonight. Jason Robertson for Dallas, Mitch Marner for Toronto. These guys are on incredible point streaks right now, both of them. And I ended up going with a Marner goal, Robertson goal, Marner over 1.5 points, Robertson over 1.5 points, SGP in this game at like 20-1. Swing for the fences type deal. That they both get 2 points, that they both score a goal in this game. That's what it'll take. Both of them, Jason Robertson for Dallas, Mitch Marner for Toronto, to score a goal and get 2 points. 20-1. I think it's worth it. They're scoring points for fun. They're scoring goals for fun right now, both of these guys. We know Toronto and Marner got the big franchise record, consecutive game point streak. They set the record with 19 with a 2-goal performance against Tampa Bay in the 4-3 loss on Saturday night. He has now scored a goal in 5 straight games and a grand total of 6 goals during that span to go with that incredible point streak. And what else can you say about Jason Robertson here for the Dallas Stars that we haven't said already? He had the hat trick against Anaheim. He had a goal and an assist against Minnesota. He has now gone in the last 8 games Only once has he not scored. He's gotten goals in 7 of the last 8 games, and during that span, he has an incredible total of 12 goals in the last 8 games for the Dallas Stars. I think that's one hell of a same-game parlay, shoot for the moon, swing for the fences type deal. Marner to score, Robertson to score, Marner over 1.5 points, and Robertson over 1.5 points. 20-1 for that to come through. I think that's definitely worth a lot. And you look at it, have these guys gotten multiple point games of late? You bet they have. Many times. Marner, 2 points against Tampa, 2 points against Pittsburgh. You look at Jason Robertson during this stretch. He's had 3 straight games where he had 2 points or more. Then he had a couple with 1. And then the last 2, he's had 3 points and he's had 2 points. This has a shot. This has a real shot. And I think it's a better shot than 20-1 odds would indicate. So I really like that. A little Ian Cameron working in the lab, cooking up a little science experiment here, if you will, with this point prop and in this same game parlay with Marner and Robertson, two players that might be the 2 players in the best form offensively right now in the entire NHL. Terry, what do you think here, Leafs and Stars?
Quickly addressing the Stars' last game against Minnesota, and a comment in the chat there. The Dave says that the lost lead by the Wild was trash. Nobody expected the Wild to be competitive in that game. I think everybody loved Dallas. Oh, Jaric, okay. I was also on the Wild, but that's no surprise to anybody. But in that game, they got tired. Second night of a back-to-back, it's no excuse. That's no excuse, of course. They did get tired, but hey, they cashed as an underdog and weren't really supposed to be in that game. Ottinger bouncing back. Obviously, he did get pulled, and that might have lit a fire under the Stars' butt and helped them in that game with the Wild being tired as well. But now we're going to this game. This Toronto team, 8-0-3 in their last 11 games. They've allowed 3 or less goals in 10 of their last 11. I was expecting this team to start allowing goals by the bunches with their defensive injuries. But they've got the goaltending to cover up any defensive issues. Dallas, in all 14 of their wins, they've won by multiple goals. So they either smash a team and win by multiple goals, or they lose. I don't see them smashing Toronto here. Toronto 6-1 in their last 7 in Dallas, 12-3 in the last 15 meetings against Dallas overall. Like Richie says in the chat, Dallas struggles against Canadian teams. Toronto already beat them this year. I can't go against Toronto right now. I don't love fading Dallas with how they played, but when it comes down to it, they've won all their games by multiple goals. I don't see them winning by multiple goals against Toronto. I think Toronto wins this game, and I got them at -110. It's plus 100 now. I like it here. I think Toronto's the right side in this one.
All right, Terry liking the Leafs, and look, I've loved this team's effort since the defenseman went down. You can't criticize it at all. They've been much tighter defensively, 5-man group. Even the Tampa Bay game, Tampa Bay's playing great hockey, as I mentioned, the last 10, and the Leafs could have easily won that game. And that's now becoming an alarming pattern for the Leafs against the Lightning, dating back to the playoff series last year. They play this team great, and they get a loss to show for it. It seems to be, that's got to be frustrating for the Leafs because, again, just like in the playoffs last year, played the Lightning so well and you end up with an L. Got to be frustrating. Terry, what do you think here, Leaf Stars?
You went to me already.
Oh, yes, but not Terry. Nick, Toronto and Dallas.
Yeah, this is the second game today that I'm grabbing the pencil and paper, and we're going to draw. I have this game projected 0.06 goals apart, so I think the pick'em price is correct in this game. I have this game projected 2.72 to 2.66, 5.38 projected goals in this game. I like the under in this spot. I got it plus money for the under 6 in this game. I see a 2-2 game heading into overtime. That's kind of where I'm projecting this game to go. Ottinger to bounce back after last game, and then Murray's been good so far since coming in off of the injured list. 21 goals allowed, but 25.15 expected goals allowed. He has about a 4.15 goal saved above average. So he's been an above average goaltender so far this season. So I look for a good defensive effort from both these teams. I have this game projected low. So I got under 6 at plus money. And then I believe it was plus 345, small bet on the draw.
Right, there we go. Draw and the under here for Nick with the Leafs and Stars. All right, Jaric, Toronto, Dallas.
I think this one should be a doozy. I do kind of agree with the under. When I was going through my notes because I'm preparing to broadcast this game later, I kind of thought in my head 2-2 overtime makes a lot of sense, Nick. I think you're spot on with that one. I might bet the draw. I hadn't bet it yet. I'll get to the prop. I think a prop in this game is probably my favorite, but just like diving into the depths of this game, the Leafs obviously 7-0-3 in their last 10, Stars 5-1-4 in their last 10. The 12-3 are the Leafs in their last 15 meetings against Dallas. They've won their last 4 out in Big D. I mean, these Dallas home games have been slugfest off and on here. I mean, they face better teams. It tends to be, kind of an over battle, but the way, Nick was handicapping the game, I think Ottinger coming back after that rough loss, I think it's just a situational spot here where it is going to end up going under the total. Maybe if you really want to hit the over, you could find like a live over 5. I was thinking about that. But I would stick with the player prop here. Michael Bunting, he's got over half a point at plus 100. I found that on DraftKings. He got 6 assists in his last 5 games. And in the earlier meeting against Dallas, he had 2 assists in that one back in early October. So I like Bunting to be able to find his way on the score sheet, whether it's a goal or an assist. And I think you're right, with Jason Robertson. His brother Nick ended up putting up 2 against Dallas in that first game, had the overtime winner. So I think he's going to show up tonight.
I agree with that. And I didn't mention that earlier, but that there's definitely, I think, some truth to that. And look, he's still playing with Tavares and Marner. And I actually thought Tavares and Robertson, Nick Robertson for Toronto, were both worth goal prop looks against Tampa because they're going to feed Marner the puck a lot. Now that's no longer the case, maybe as much now because he's got the record. But I think they still want the point streak to continue. So I think there's still that onus for the Leaf players. Get Marner the puck. Even though he's got the franchise record now for consecutive games with a point, let's try to get him to 20. Let's try to get him to 21 games, 22 games. Keep this point streak going. So I still think he's going to have the puck a lot. And again, Marner's playing with Tavares and the aforementioned Nick Robertson. So, and then you factor in he's playing his brother. He wants to play well tonight, especially head-to-head going against him. And that's when he had his best game as a Leaf offensively, when he played Dallas. It was that first game. And we all pounced on Dallas. And the whole story that we had with our guy Jay Rosehill on the show earlier this season, he's frantically trying to create a Bet365 account just to bet Nick Robertson to score a goal in that game against Dallas. And thankfully, he got it in because he did score against the Stars, not once but twice in Toronto earlier this year. So, yeah, I like that too. Nick Robertson to score a goal. His brother on the other side. Sibling rivalry takes hold. It's just like with Brady and Matthew Tkachuk. They always want to play well against each other when they're head-to-head. Same thing here. So definitely a good angle there with Nick Robertson to score a goal. And like I said, you could do a bunch of different – whatever you want to do, just get some SGPs going with Marner and Jason Robertson tonight, whether it's just put them in a simple point parlay, a goal parlay, whatever the case may be. I mean, take advantage of it because these guys can't stop producing right now. For their respective teams. Montreal, Seattle. We've got Seattle minus 260, home favorite, 6.5 the total in this game. I mean, somehow, some way, I want to fade the Canadiens in this spot. I mean, what could you possibly get from them tonight after just a brutal loss last night? You're up 4-0 against Vancouver, and you end up losing 7-6 in overtime. I think a Seattle first period look, I might even look at a -0.5 first period puck line. And I don't do a ton of those, but man, this would make sense here tonight to maybe look in that direction. You can get Seattle around plus 120 with that first period puck line. And plus we've got the same situation we talked about with Winnipeg earlier, where Seattle's now had bad first periods, 2 home games in a row. They overcame it against Washington and came back to win that game, but they could not do it against Florida, where they got behind 2-0 in the first period in that game. They ended up losing 5-1. So they're also talking about we need a better first 20 minutes on home ice. So I think that's the best stance for me is Seattle first period puck line here, -0.5, plus 120. Team that started slow in each of their last 2 games at home, down 2-0 after the first period to both Washington and Florida in their last 2 home games. So that's what I'm going to roll with here. Kraken first period puck line. Kraken team total I was looking at as well. It is a little juicy, though, a little pricey, over 3.5. You got to lay a decent price with it. But, certainly I think they've got a shot to get to 4 goals. But I think my favorite look in this game with Seattle, because I do want to somehow go against Montreal in this spot, which is a brutal spot, tough spot. back-to-back on the road after just a demoralizing loss last night, to have to regroup 24 hours later and play again. That's not going to be easy. But I think that first period puck line's worth a look. And I lean Seattle over 3.5. Team total minus 145. Terry, what about you here? Canadiens Kraken.
We finally got to the game I've been most excited to talk about the whole show. So on July 7th, 2022, I found a bet that I wanted to make in this game. That is the Montreal Canadiens decided to pass up on Shane Wright.
Oh, yeah, shit.
And not draft him.
Yeah, that's right.
So he fell to fourth.
Yep.
Yeah, he fell to fourth to Seattle. The Kraken here.
Oh, yeah.
And he had a rough start to the NHL. He got sent down to the AHL. He has 4 goals in his 5 games in the AHL. And now he's getting called back up for this game. I posted the picture on Twitter. Follow me at Let's Go Wild Picks, of the picture of Bettman and Wright's face when he looked at Montreal. And he said in an interview after, he wasn't looking at Montreal, but he was looking at Montreal. He's been waiting for this game. Seattle calling him up here. This is Shane Wright anytime goal. You can get it from plus 300 at some spots. Obviously, not everybody can use Caesars. If you can use Caesars, plus 525. It's absolutely insane. This is the spot I've been looking at since July. And it's a perfect storm. The fact that he's getting called up now from the AHL. He had the preseason or the struggles in the early year. He's coming back motivated. This is just an amazing spot. I love Shane Wright to score. And I'm also on the over 6 in this one as well. Another game which has moved towards a 6. If you've watched Seattle lately, even Montreal lately, looked at Montreal last night, these teams can go into very high scoring games at times. So I don't think it should be a 6. And I love Shane Wright to score tonight.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. In fact, we said this on our free our recap show, the summer show we do every year, the free agency recap. We talked a little about the draft as well, and we talked a little about that Shane Wright situation where he got passed by, falls to Seattle, gives the old death stare to the Montreal Canadiens draft table that night. And we said when he plays Montreal for the first time, bet his props. And I first of all, I didn't know they had called him up. That's number one. And number two, I didn't know they put him in the lineup tonight. And sure enough, they should have known they would. That if they called him up, they're going to stick him in the lineup tonight against this Montreal team. And they are. It looks like he's only going to be on the 4th line, it looks like, but he's going to be in the lineup, and he's going to be looking to make an impact. And you can get plus 525 at Caesars with him to score a goal tonight. So, yeah, it's just a must bet, just simply based on the situation. And look, we stuck to it. We said it in the summer. We're going to take Shane Wright props when he plays Montreal for that first time. Well, here's that opportunity. We can't go back on our word. Now, what do you think here, Nick? Habs and Kraken.
If this gets to a 6, I'll touch the over. Other than that, I really don't have too much on this game. I kind of lean Montreal. I have this game projected about 0.43 goals apart, which I don't think justifies a minus 260 price tag. So just on the price alone, Montreal has been one of those teams that has cashed a lot of big underdog tickets this year. Yep. And when we look at them, they're number 5 in the NHL and money made this year. Seattle's number 3. So these are 2 very profitable teams so far this season. And I just don't know if I'm ready to lay 260 with the Kraken quite yet. I get it. They're much improved this year. Don't look now. Montreal is like, I think, equal 500 on the year. Like they're 12-11-2. They're 1 game under 500. This team is not as bad as we thought they were going to be this year. So I'm kind of interested in the over $2 price tag here with the Montreal Canadiens. One thing that really kept me off of it, though, was the fact that they did play last night and they did lose the way they did. Brutal loss, which maybe they come and bounce back in this game. Maybe Montreal first period could be an interesting look. You can get that only plus 160. But maybe they take yesterday and they try to bounce back from that and with a strong first period. I'm seeing plus 231 for Montreal. I'm kind of interested in that. I want to see if that price continues to rise. I don't think Seattle should be this big of a favorite in the game. So kind of that's where I'm looking. And if this hits a 6, I'll bet the over. But maybe Montreal team total over. an interesting look as well. 2.5, maybe they get their goals, but also you got to keep in mind it's most likely Martin Jones in net. So I'm kind of looking maybe Montreal team total over 2.5 is an interesting look, or just waiting for this line to continue to climb as everybody takes Seattle, maybe throws them in their parlays and things along those lines and increases the price on them here. So maybe Canadiens plus 230 is a look. But for me, maybe a team total would be my main bet for this game. I haven't bet anything in it yet.
Yeah, it's funny because you kind of like Montreal first period because you think they're so angry and upset about last night. They pounce early before they get tired, and I'm kind of the reverse where I think they could still be hung over from that loss, losing the way they did. 4-0, and it's the start where they're slow. And meanwhile, you got, like I said, Seattle that's now had bad starts in the first period each of the last 2 home games. They don't want to repeat that again after what happened against. So that's why I lean to the other side, Seattle first period puck line. That being said, I might by default have to take something on the Montreal team total over because it's like plus 100. It's like even money.
Yeah.
And Martin Jones hasn't played as well, obviously, in recent starts. So I might actually do both. I might do both sides of the fence here. Kraken first period puck line, but Habs team total over 2.5, even money. What do you think here, Jaric?
So I'm kind of looking towards this first period too. When I was kind of watching that game yesterday on my monitor while I was writing down all my stuff for today, and my initial thought was, yeah, Seattle first period, Habs are off this bad loss. This is the last game of the road trip. They're just going to be ready to get back home. Then I dove into it a little bit more, and then I was like, you know what? Maybe Seattle first period isn't the move. I mean, Kraken, they won both matchups last year. They scored 4+ in each. But I look at the first period. The Habs have won 5 straight first periods on the road, and they've also had a big run of the first period unders on the road. Kraken had 5 straight home first period overs, and they've lost 3 straight. So that's kind of indicating to me that Seattle's going down, a goal or 2 early in that period, still getting over the total on home ice. So I'm leaning Habs to score first here. I mean, we've seen the last 2 games, they've scored first and lost, and they were 7-0 going into this road trip when leading after the first period, and now they've lost 2 straight. So I might also take Habs to score the first goal and same game parlay that with Seattle to win from behind.
Good stuff indeed there for Jaric. Yeah, it's a fascinating game because I think you can make a case for Montreal early and then they peter out, or you can make a case, that's just a tough loss last night. They're not ready to go from the opening puck drop. And Seattle, after 2 slow starts at home, they are ready to go, and you could look Seattle early. So
I was looking at Ryan Donato. He scored in both meetings last year versus Montreal, and he has 3 goals in 5 games versus Jake Allen. You could find him about plus 300 to score a goal. So I think Ryan Donato might not be a bad value play.
Yeah, this is a good prop game too. Caulfield, Suzuki, Doc, anyone on that top line's worth a look. I say the first overall pick is worth a look too. Juraj Slafkovsky, he's getting more ice time. He's up on the second line right now. He's getting opportunities. So those are some looks for Montreal. Seattle, you mentioned Wright. We got to take Wright here in this situation, as Terry mentioned. But we've got to also look at some of the players that have been really good lately for them. Matty Beniers, Yanni Gourde has even stepped up. Wenberg's the guy. I mean, you're still getting some places plus 400 for him to score a goal. He's centering the top line right now for the Seattle Kraken, and he's gotten it going lately. Wenberg for the Seattle Kraken, been a very good goal prop lately as well. All right, we've reached the final game of this Tuesday card. Carolina, Anaheim. We've got Carolina minus 300, road favorites, 6 the total in this game. I mean, this is just a real tough one in terms of finding any sort of value. I don't think I could take Anaheim right now at all, just with what I'm seeing. And they're coming off a road trip spot as well. When you look at it, they went through it: Nashville, Dallas, Minnesota, Winnipeg, 4-game road trip, 0-4 on that road trip. Now you're coming back home 48 hours after your last game of that trip for a team going from, the central time zone in Winnipeg to now the Pacific time zone. So this is a tough spot. First home game. You only have that 1-day break, that 1 day off from the final game of the road trip to the first home game. A team that's just playing miserable hockey, giving up goals in bunches. They have given up to the opponent 5 goals in 5 of the last 6 games. I mean, it's just been miserable defensive hockey. The goaltending struggled, whether it's been Gibson or Stolars. It hasn't mattered. They have not been getting consistent goaltending either. Penalty killing, dead last in the NHL. Do they ever go a game without giving up a power play goal at this point? Like, it's ridiculous with Anaheim. I mean, look at these numbers. Holy gosh, 9 of the last 10 games they've given up a power play goal. Just absolutely dreadful. They've had multiple games during that span where they've given up more than one power play goal. And don't look now, Carolina's power play, 6 goals in the last 5 games from them. They've won 4 in a row. I mean, form-wise, it's all Carolina, but we are talking about minus 300. We are talking about a team that's, been on the road for a bit now, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, LA. You've got Anaheim tonight, and then you're going to go to the East and finish up with 2 more road games, Islanders and Red Wings. You're playing well, but, do you have that focus to put your foot on the throat of a team that is just in free fall right now? That's the ultimate question. Goaltenders, we don't know yet in this game whether it's going to be Kochetkov or Ranta for Anaheim. They've been going back and forth, or for Carolina rather. They've been going back and forth with both guys lately, the Hurricanes. Brindamore interchanging between Ranta and Kochetkov. I'm impressed with Kochetkov. There's no question about that. He's been absolutely terrific. I think he's getting better and better and better with each start for the Hurricanes. I think he's eventually going to be their number 1 goalie sooner rather than later. 2.27 goals against average, .919 save percentage. Very strong in the win against LA. 4-2 on the weekend. We'll see if he's in net. If he's in net, I like Carolina team total over a little bit because I think Anaheim might struggle to score. 3.5 minus 140 or so is the team total for Carolina. I lean that way. If it's Ranta in net, maybe look at a full game over. That's kind of where I'm going right now, depending on who's in net and who's announced as the starter for Carolina. But I definitely think Carolina a good shot to get to 4 goals. If I were to bet anything in this game, it would be Canes team total over 3.5. Terry, what do you think here? Carolina, Anaheim.
Yeah, I already have one puck line that's not at plus money, and this is another one. I took the Canes minus 1.5 at minus 106. For me, it's one team can stop the puck and has a good defense, and the other team doesn't. And I think ultimately that's what's going to come to play here. Obviously, the Hurricanes' offense hasn't been anything special this year. But Anaheim can't stop a puck, especially as you said, Ian, with just hearing about the power play difference that the Hurricanes are scoring on the power play now. That makes me like the Hurricanes even more because the Ducks will take penalties. I like the Canes here. I think they win this in convincing fashion. I could see it being something like a 4-1 type game. So I don't think necessarily it's going to be a high scoring game. But I like the Canes to take care of business here.
Yeah, I did bet the over and won with the over, the 5.5 with the Canes and the Kings on Saturday. But a lot of that was LA, as I've talked about. It's more an over bet because of that LA team and the fact they're scoring, but also giving up a ton of goals. I'm not as bullish about overs with Carolina, especially. Could be a little flat spot, too, where they kind of go through the motions. You worry about that a little bit when you've had the opponents you've had. You're playing a lowly Anaheim team. That part of me is that the mentality of Carolina is, just do enough to win here. And in this game, that's the one thing. That's also what keeps this a lukewarm opinion for me with the team total over 3.5 on Carolina, because I could see 3-1, 4-1 easily in this game involving Carolina tonight, especially if Kochetkov's in net. That's when I really think they'll be able to keep the Anaheim Ducks from getting too many goals tonight themselves. What do you think here, Nick, with Canes and Ducks?
Yeah, I've already played the under 6 in this game. I have this game projected for 5.38 or 5.38 goals. There we go. Words. I have this projected for 3.37 to 2.01. That is with Kochetkov in net. If it's Ranta, maybe a little bit of a sprinkle on the Anaheim Ducks money line. I need Kochetkov in this game. If I would ever think about the Hurricanes, I'm not looking at the Hurricanes at a minus 300 price tag. As much as I've been somebody who's been fading the Ducks an awful lot this year, getting close to $2.50 at home against the Carolina Hurricanes team, which is going to have to travel back to the East Coast after this game, and they don't play until the 10th in New York. So they have a few days off after this. So this could be one of those games where they're just looking forward to the time off or whatever. Yep. And even though I have this game projected to be a 1.35 goal difference, a draw could be, for whatever reason, this feels like a weird draw game where it's 3-2 Carolina in overtime. Like that's kind of the feel I'm getting in this game, even though my projections say different. This has one of those weird, flat, late night spots where we're wondering when the Hurricanes are going to score a goal in this game. Like it could have that feeling. So I have the under 6 in this game. If you give me Ronta, I'll probably have a small bet on the Ducks.
Reminds me of that Beach Boys song. Give me Ronta, give me Ronta, give me Ronta. Yeah, get him in the damn net. There we go, a little Beach Boys. I'm really showing my age right there, doing a Beach Boys karaoke. Give me Ronta. You're right, because then obviously you're hoping that if you're a Ducks fan. Although to be honest with you, Ronta was great in the playoffs when he had to fill in. You know, he actually had a really nice little playoff run there for the Hurricanes. This year's been a little bit more up and down though for him. And like I said, I think Pyotr Kochetkov is the guy for the future in net for the Hurricanes, their future number 1. It's a great point about the days off. These are human beings. These aren't machines. They don't get 4 days off or 3-4 days off very often. They're going to have that. Carolina after this game. You can't help but be looking forward to it, you know, with the grind of an 82-game NHL regular season schedule. So there's no doubt I'm worried about that a little bit for Carolina. It's just looking forward to some rare extended time off, and you take Anaheim for granted, or you take them easily, and all of a sudden you're in a barn burner tonight against the Ducks. We'll see how they fare. This could be a good live betting game. See how Carolina looks early in the game. What do you think here, Jaric, Carolina, Anaheim?
You know, lengthy winning streak versus a lengthy losing streak. You know me with the contradicting trends. That kind of scares me off this game. I think you guys are on the same page with, you know, it could be a flat spot for Carolina, especially with the days off coming up. And I agree with that. But the Ducks, they're 8-2 in their last 10 through the first period over at home, but they've only led once after any of those games. So, I mean, this could be a spot where if you absolutely want to bet something, Carolina first period -0.5, or maybe a team total over 1.5 goals in the first period. I'm personally not going to get there, but when I was looking through everything, that was kind of where I was looking if I absolutely had to do something. And in the props department, I like Troy Terry. He's got goals in all 3 games versus Carolina, and he's got 3 goals in his last 5 games on this current run he's on. So I think if you're looking for somebody on Anaheim, Terry makes the most sense. He's plus 195.
Yeah, that's Terry. And by the way, Maxime Comtois back in the lineup for Anaheim tonight. He was playing well before he got injured, especially offensively. He was picking it up, so that could be a little prop to sprinkle on for the Ducks. For Carolina, it's basically, you know, I regurgitate and repeat the same players I normally do, but it's true. Natchez especially. He's been magnificent all season for the Carolina Hurricanes. Tara Vinans just came back. He's playing with Kotkaniemi and Svechnikov. First game back, 2 shots on goal. Didn't make much of an impact. I think he might hit the back of the net tonight. Second game back, should be more comfortable. Tara Vinen returning from injury for Carolina, so maybe another prop option there in that game as well. All right, there we go. What a show. Great show today. Great to have 3 members of the Ice Guys community, longtime members of the Ice Guys community, Terry, Nick, and Jaric with us today on the show. Hit the like button, those of you watching on YouTube. And a reminder, patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. Our daily Ice Guys show betting card posted there. Goalie charts, totals charts, power ratings, and more. Tons of bonus content as well. Patreon.com/Ice Guys, just $10 a month. And check out the Ice Guys store as well. Time's a wasting to take advantage of the shipping offer and get your merch arriving at your doorstep before the Christmas season. All right, best bets to wrap up this Tuesday show. Terry, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
I mentioned the Shane Wright prop. I'm not going to give it out as my best bet, but I'm going to mention it again. I really like that prop. But for my best bet, I'm going with Knicks Islanders in regulation. You can get it for anywhere around -110 now. I got it for plus 100 earlier. I like the Islanders to win against the Blues today.
All right, New York Islanders to get the job done for Terry Edelmann with his best bet here on this Ice Guys show for a Tuesday. Nick, what do you like for best bet?
Yeah, I'm going to go with a different Eastern team going up against a Western team. I'm going to go with the Ottawa Senators money line in this game, looking to fade the Kings going forward a little bit until they get their goaltending situation figured out. And Ottawa's a team that I think is a little bit of a bet on team going forward. So I'm going to go with Ottawa money line here.
All right, Ottawa Senators, even money, -110 against L.A. Best bet for Nick, Earle, and Jaric. Good to finally have you on a daily show. What do you like? I think your first ever Ice Guys show for the daily show and your first ever best bet coming up. Make it count.
No pressure at all. Thanks, Ian, again for having me on. I appreciate this. I always, wanted the opportunity to come on here and handicap some games. For my first best bet, I'm going to go with the New Jersey Devils in the first period, minus half a goal. I got it plus 100. It's around minus 105 now. I still like that the Blackhawks are 1-3-1 in their last 5 road first periods, and that one win was against the Rangers, and they historically play very well in that building. So I threw that out the window. And New Jersey has won 7 straight home first periods against Chicago. I think that these numbers line up nicely tonight, and I think that the New Jersey Devils will lead after the first period against Chicago.
All right, there it is. New Jersey Devils minus a half plus 100 puck line against Chicago. First period, best bet for Jaric Rubel. My best bet, also a first period bet, believe it or not. And I lean to them in the full game as well, but I really think the first period's the better option here. Winnipeg Jets minus 105, minus 110. You can actually still get minus 105 at a bunch of spots. First period money line for the Jets against the Florida Panthers. I think that first 20 minutes, you'll see the best of the Jets after 2 slow starts. The coach is not happy. Rick Bowness with the slow starts at home against Columbus and Anaheim, the last 2 home games. I think you see a better Jets team early in that first period tonight. Winnipeg first period money line against Florida for my best bet for this Tuesday card. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Ice Guys. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms: Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. Thanks to our special guests, Terry Edelmann, Nick Earle, Jaric Rubel, for joining us. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we will talk to you again tomorrow on Wednesday for another edition of the Ice Guys presented by National Hockey Now.